Here we go. This is our first story in our Journeys book. So it's Unit 1, Lesson 1. And our first story is called Henry and Mudge. And maybe you have read Henry and Mudge stories before. I know you read through it yesterday. Maybe you found some of them in the library before, because we have them in the library too. They are really fantastic books. Hopefully yesterday you went over who the author was and who the illustrator was. I'm going to go over it real quick because we like to have that in our brains. We always like to meet the author. Cynthia Ryland is the author, and Susie Stevenson is the illustrator. Who can tell me what the job of the author is? Real quick, so that we know what those jobs are. Zeta, what's the job of the author?
To write the book.
Fantastic. To write the book. To write the words for the book. Right. What about the illustrator?
Oh.
What does the illustrator do, Kaden?
The illustrator.
Not makes the pages.
Oh yeah. No.
Not makes the pages. Jose, you want to give it a try?
Write the words.
The author writes the words. What does the illustrator do, Gwen?
Writes the picture.
Draws the pictures. What does the illustrator do, Kaden?
Draw.
Draws the pictures. Jose, what does the illustrator do? Draws the pictures. Right. Yeah. So the author writes the words. The illustrator draws the pictures. Now, I always like to talk about the genre of the book. That's just a fancy way of saying type. So we're going to talk about what type of story we're reading. Up over your nose, please, Levi. What type of story we're reading. And it's important that we understand what kind of story we're reading because different stories mean different things for us. Do you have a question about what we're doing?
I'm allergic to.
Do you have a question about what we're doing?
No.
Okay, then no hands right now.
I'm going to.
Nope, not right now. We're listening right now. Our story is a realistic fiction story. I see the word real and realistic. You know, something that's real can actually happen. It's something that's true. But I also see the word fiction. Fiction is just a fancy way of saying fake. So a realistic fiction story is a real fake story. So it's really just a make-believe story, but it could happen. So for example, we might have characters that are like real people or maybe have names of real people that we know. And sometimes there's events or things that happen in the story that really could happen in real life. So maybe as you're reading through a story that's realistic fiction, you see a name and you're like, hey, I know a person with that name. Or something happens in the story and you're like, hey, that's happened to me before. I know what that's like. Because realistic fiction stories are real enough that they could actually happen even though they're a fake make-believe story. Okay? So Henry and Mudge is real enough that it could happen, but it is still make-believe. Okay. And our essential question we've already talked about is, what is a perfect pet like? So that's just something we think about as we're going through our story. Now, today as we read through the story, I'm not going to just read the story the whole way. I'm actually going to stop and ask questions as we go along. And those of you here that are kind of new to me today, just so you know, I don't just call on people that have their hands raised. Sometimes I call on friends who are just sitting with their hands down. Because I want to give everybody a chance to talk, and I want to see if everybody's really listening and paying attention. So I may still call on you even if you don't raise your hand. Just want you to be aware of that. Because I don't want it just to be 2 or 3 people that are answering questions all the time. I want everybody to be ready and answering questions all the time. Okay? So here we go. Henry had no brothers and no sisters. I want a brother, he told his parents. Sorry, they said. Henry had no friends on his street. I want to live on a different street, he told his parents. Sorry, they said. Henry had no pets at home. I want to have a dog, he told his parents. Sorry, they almost said. Now, before we turn the page, what do we already know about Henry? What do we already know about Henry? Levi, what do we already know about Henry?
He really wants a brother or a dog.
He wants a brother or a dog. That's one thing. Or a sister, maybe. Oh, no, he wants a brother. You're right. He wants a brother or a dog. What else do we already know about Henry? Rosemary, what else do we already know about Henry?
He doesn't have any friends or sisters or brothers.
Right, there's no friends on his street. So there's no friends that live nearby him. So he might be maybe feeling a little lonely. No brothers or sisters to play with. No pets to play with. No friends close by. No babies around. No, just grown-up people in their houses near them. He might be feeling a little bit lonely. So let's turn the page and let's see. So he asked his parents, told his parents I want his dog, and his parents said, sorry, almost. But first, they looked at their house with no brothers and sisters. Then they looked at their street with no children. Then they looked at Henry's face. Then they looked at each other. Okay, they said. I want to hug you, Henry told his parents. And he did. You can see he's hugging them in the picture. So, now, how do you think Henry's parents feel about him? If you look at the picture, actually you can look at both pictures on 18 and 19. How do you think Henry's parents feel about him? Zayden, what do you think, buddy?
Sad.
You think they feel sad? Why do you think they feel sad?
Because he don't have any fun.
Okay, so maybe they feel sad for him that there's no friends on his street, maybe. What do you think, Gwen?
Maybe they probably feel really happy because they're gonna get him a dog but they also feel kind of bad for him because he has nobody to play with, nobody to talk to with, nobody close.
Okay,
by.
so they feel happy because they decided they're going to agree to get him a dog, but they also kind of feel a little bad because he's kind of lonely, right? So is it safe for us to say that his parents care for him?
Yes.
That they love him? That they want him to be happy?
Yes.
Hey, Levi, open your book so it's open up to 18 and 19 so you can look at the pictures as we're going along. Okay? So, yeah, so they care about him. They're worried about him. They don't want him to be lonely. So they're going to fix the problem. They're going to get a dog.
Whoa.
Henry searched for a dog. Not just any dog, said Henry. Not a short one, he said. Not a curly one, he said. And no pointed ears. So, what does Henry mean when he says not just any dog? What do you think he means by that, Logan?
He means he doesn't want any dog. He wants a perfect dog.
Right, yeah, he doesn't want just any dog. He wants to find one that's perfect for him, right? So, what kind of dog is Henry looking for then? He says not a short one, not a curly one, and no pointed ears. So what should the dog be like? Levi, what should the dog be like?
It's the one in the other page on.
But what should the dog be like?
Oh,
What should the dog be like, Jose?
black and white.
I don't know about color. Maybe black and white. Should it be a small dog?
No. Medium dog.
No, probably a medium or a big dog because he said no short dogs, right? So kind of medium or big. Should it have curly fur or straight fur?
No.
Which one? Should it have curly fur or straight fur?
Straight fur.
It should have straight fur. So a medium or big dog with straight fur because he says no curly fur. Should it have pointy ears or round ears?
Round.
It should have round ears, right? So he's looking for kind of like a big medium dog, straight fur with round ears. It didn't matter what color, just bigger medium dog, straight fur, round ears. So then on the next page, 22 and 23, it says, then he found Mudge. Mudge had floppy ears, not pointy. That was one thing that was important. Mudge had straight fur, not curly. There we go. There's another thing that was important. But Mudge was short. Uh-oh. Did he want a short dog?
No.
No, he didn't want a short dog. But because he's a puppy, Henry said, he'll grow. So is it okay that he's a short dog right now? Yeah, it's okay that he's a short dog right now. He's just a puppy, and Henry recognizes that. So, and did he ever? He grew out of his puppy cage. He grew out of his dog cage. And he grew out of 7 collars in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He grew out of all of those collars right in a row. And when he finally stopped growing, he weighed 180 pounds. He stood, now remember that means from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, or bottom of his feet to the top of his head. He stood 3 feet tall. That's about right here, friends, this tall, right about to where my hip is. That's pretty tall. And he drooled. Ew. Spit came out of his mouth. Ew. But you know what Henry said? Henry says, I'm glad you're not short, Henry said. And Mudge licked him and then sat on him. That sounds just like a dog. So did it matter to Henry that Mudge was drooly? That spit comes out of his mouth? Not really. Not really. It didn't really matter to him at all. That was fine. Didn't matter. And the good thing is Mudge got pretty big, so he wasn't a short dog. 180 pounds, just in case you're not familiar with that. A lot of grown-up men, like dads and uncles and grandpas, a lot of them weigh about 180 pounds. So that's a pretty heavy dog. It's about the size of a grown-up man. 3 feet tall, that's pretty high. It's not too much shorter than you are right now. That's a pretty tall dog. So he grew to be a very, very big dog. There, hands up. Hands up. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're going to go on with something else today. We're not going to go over the story more right now. So right now I want you to put your hard reading books away. And I want you to get out your soft reading book that looks exactly like the hard reading book. It has the boy on the swing on the front. Okay, it's your reader's notebook, we call it. And I'm going to